Hi, it's Jan. It's December 5th, 2022, and we're in the holiday season, so many holidays, and thank you, my subscribers, for being with me for years now with this video log. And I have a gift for you today. My gift is my guest, Catherine Filloux.
Perfect.
Perfect. I did it perfect because I was a rotten French student. And Catherine, of course, is bilingual, and that's one of the things that I adore about her. But even more what I adore about her is what she's been able to do as a woman playwright and speaking to a new generation of women playwrights who I feel like are moving more and more toward a political slant. That's my feeling. And we're going to talk to her about that. She has a fantastic website, which you can visit. And Lori's going to put that on the screen for you now. So if you want to learn more about her or where to get her plays or to read her mini plays, visit her website, and it's all there. Welcome, happy
Jen,
holidays.
Thank you so much. I just have to start, Jen, by saying that you are a paragon of talent. I mean, I was looking and reading. Now, I knew you by name long ago as being the artistic director of Abingdon, and my agent would always speak about you and say, oh, Jan's doing this and this. And then, of course, you're an actress, you are a playwright, well, mostly, and so it's really...
And a vlogger.
and a vlogger, and so a paragon and a veteran, if I may say.
Well, more and more like that. Thank God for a long life.
Having me.
Oh, please. It's been long overdue. Actually, we talked about this right before the pandemic hit. And that was 3 years ago,
yes,
practically now.
Yes,
and we were having a wonderful dinner in the West Bank Cafe. And I said, would you be on my vlog? And she said, yes, of course I will. So anyway, here we are. But what I wanted to talk about a little bit, and we may have to do this in 2 parts because it's a lot of material. I think it's so brave. And I tend to shy away from politics in my playwriting, only because I don't, not because I don't have views, but I'm afraid someone's going to read it and say, I'm not going to produce that, it's too political. This young playwright, it goes right toward the light in politics in her playwriting, which I'm so amazed by. And talk about that, how you first began playwriting, what really pulled you in and said, I want to try writing stories, I want to start writing stories for the theater.
Sure. So the first thing I would say, Jen, is that I am possibly a political playwright, but I do come from the whole thing as a storyteller. And ultimately, I don't know where my stories will take me. So they are definitely all plays that deal with political issues. And one of the central ones is U.S. complicity. I've written a lot, for example, about Cambodia and other countries, always with the theme of U.S. complicity. So it all started really with collaborations that I'm just so fortunate to have. And it's been now 30 years and more that I've been writing plays. I'm also a librettist. I write libretto for opera and am an activist. And I guess the first collaboration that brought me to playwriting was my dear family. And we grew up in a sort of strange situation where my mother is from Algeria, father from France. We, all 4 siblings and parents, grew up in Southern California.
Nice.
French was my first language, so already, and we happened to spend a lot of time going across the Mexican border to camp. So already I was very sort of engaged in, I guess I would say 2 things, sort of looking at a variety of different cultures and borders, and then also, for some reason, it might have just been in my DNA, I would look at economic differences and immediately start to think, and I did this early on as a kid, like how can we take all this surplus here and bring it here? So it was just, I think that was just part of my nature in terms of questioning things. And early on, I started interviewing a group of Cambodian refugee women who lived in the Bronx in New York. And the theme of what I was writing about was a group of refugee women in California who suffered from psychosomatic blindness after what they witnessed during the Khmer Rouge. And to enter that realm, I just listened for like years and years to refugees to try to understand a lot of things, genocide, the complicity that the U.S. had in all of this, PTSD, which at the time that I started learning about it, didn't really have that household acronym of PTSD. It was back in
post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yes, right. It was
post-traumatic stress
disorder.
Disorder.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so I didn't really know as much about that obviously then as I do now, and now I think PTSD is a term that's used for so many things. So the Cambodian work, I wrote 4 plays about Cambodia through the years, and also an opera called Where Elephants Weep. And all of the collaborators that I had the good fortune of working with, the composer, for example, Him Sopi, who composed the opera, Morm Sokli, who was a Cambodian woman I met in Cambodia, who was in my first production in Cambodia in 2001, was an extraordinary actress who I still know. Wow. And so that work then kind of brought me to, for some reason I went to Bosnia because I had a play called Lemkin's House, which was about Raphael Lemkin. And the team that did that play, we first did it in New York, which included John Daggett playing Lemkin and many, many collaborators, Jean Randich, my director. We ended up working together on a variety of things. And so those, and Nadia Bowers, who's an amazing actress, who really, some of these people have become kind of muses for me. They're people I've written for a lot. And so then from genocide in a sort of large scale way, I went on to write a play about femicide, which is gender-based violence, which entailed a much more global look. And I went with an attorney who is an amazing activist to Guatemala and to Haiti. And one of the things that obsessed me along the way is we went to these enormous garbage dumps. There's one in Guatemala City where people live and they recycle and they work to gather things to make money. And in the one in Guatemala City, there was this massive gas station at the top of the hill. And that really inspired my play Luz, L-U-Z, which means light in Spanish, because it just was such a disconnect between Chevron or whatever and the other thing. And I was really moved recently because a woman at a college in Florida called I can't remember the name of the college, but her name is Mariah Reed, did a production of my play.
Wow.
And it was so cool to see young people doing that play. And they took it on. It's actually the play of mine that has the most characters. It has 8 actors playing like 3 roles each. So it's about, 24 roles.
Wow.
And they just did it and did such a beautiful job. And it's actually called Broward College. And I just think that I feel right now that what I would hope, what my dream would be, is that I could be of service in terms of what I've now learned in order to be able to pass this information on. And that particular play that was produced in the college, it was during COVID actually, really served it as a good example for how the words and the stories and the pressing needs can be passed on.
That's amazing, because I was going to ask you about what's the future for you as a playwright. So I think community is the great gift that theater can give. And certainly, building community builds confidence. I mean, God knows we love to be surrounded by people who recognize us and recognize our worth.
Right.
And certainly now with the situation in Iran, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I thought it was so amazing when the young soccer player was interviewed by the Iranian press, and he said, "You're mispronouncing our country's name." And the young man was so fantastic. And he said, "Well, sorry, I apologize if I did that. I'll get it right the next time."
Yeah.
But, he didn't let it throw him at all. But there's such a force of women making a change in that country. And
it's so
I
moving.
just wonder if the playwrights are going to reflect that, if they have, any ability to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a dear friend in Iran who's an art historian who does work surrounding public resistance, such as graffiti, and then also environmental related work. And she's doing such amazing work. I will not mention her name.
Of course not.
And then I also have a dear friend who I can mention her name because it's in the press. Her name is Thierry Sang, and she's in prison right now in Cambodia because she's part of the opposition. And I think that the bravery that I have witnessed is something that gives me huge hope right now, and that is definitely the future.
And the catalyst for everyone else to sort of change, because, I mean, the old saying was the weaker sex, the weaker sex, women were always either evil or weak. Choose one. Or bimbos, I mean, that was the other one.
Right.
Weak or just not very bright. And that, the status quo now is changing. As Bob Dylan used to say, the times they are changing. But I think when he wrote that song, he actually thought the times were changing for the better. And that song is 50 years old. But I think now if you say the times they are changing, it's got to be the times are changing even more toward justice and respect for individuals.
Right. So I would say the times are changing for the better. And I see it in the Generation Z and in the people that I mentor. I think there's a sense that, for example, maybe climate change, but there are so many examples. It's unacceptable. The way that women are treated in terms of what happened with Roe v. Wade, unacceptable. It's just not acceptable. And I think that we have the power to make that change now.
In the community. The community, with the community. I mean, with respect for everybody's feelings, because it is the individual's choice.
Right.
Always.
Well, one thing that I would say that I find very fascinating is the way that somebody, let's just say they took two words, life and choice, and those are two beautiful words, and they put pro and a hyphen in front of pro and life and pro-choice, and they created some kind of divide,
a schism
that is completely based on absurdity, because nobody gets to take away the words life and choice from us.
Right.
And they have done that by attaching that hyphen and the word pro in front of it. And I it's kind of like, I won't play that game. I'm not interested. I like life, and I like choice.
Yes, hear, hear. What are you working on now?
Oh, well, I have a new play, which is a one-woman play.
Cool.
And it's about a wonderful woman called Claudia Bernardi. And she is a visual artist and an activist and a human rights, a person who fights for human rights. And she's from Argentina. And so it is about her extraordinary life. And the reason I know her life is extraordinary is because I met her in Belfast, Northern Ireland, when we were working on an arts and peace building project. And we were put together for a month as roommates. And so we spent a certain amount of time together, and Claudia would tell me stories that I could not believe. And so in a sort of fantasy world, I said, Claudia, I know the perfect actress to play you. And her name is Mercedes Herrero. And it just, dream came true, and Intar commissioned me to write the play. And so I wrote the play for Mercedes about Claudia.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's ready to go for production.
And Intar is such a respected theater in
it's such a
New York. It's probably
dear
50 years old at least. I mean, they've survived everything.
Yes, exactly.
And it's tough in the not-for-profit
isn't it,
world.
Right over there?
Yes, yeah. It's right over the street. So we'll all be, going to see that. The one good thing I will say about this horrible time that we've come through is the streaming possibilities of plays now, and that you can actually, stream them and look at them online, whereas it's a little bit of an opening in the world, which I don't think is a bad thing. I myself am involved with a couple of Zoom groups that take place out in LA. Wow. I just have to stay up to 9:30 at night to take part in them.
Those time
the trick.
Zones. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much I could listen to you forever and hope to for many, many years to come. But I thank you so much for being here and being my gift for the holidays. And is there any last little thing that you would like to share?
No, I just want to say it was really a gift for me, Jan. And again, going back to you are a role model for all of us in the theater. And I was going to say you wear many hats.
That's true.
But today, you're not wearing a hat.
And today I'm not wearing a hat. And as Lainey Cook used to say, does anyone still wear a hat? Along with Mr. Sondheim. But she actually had a CD as a mutual friend.
Funny.
Are you wearing a hat? I think the name of it is. May she, rest in peace. I think we're so lucky that we can sit here and discuss human rights as free women.
Yes.
And as talented, giving, thoughtful women. And God bless us both. Wishing you a happy holidays, and please be kind to everyone you meet, and also subscribe and like. We really appreciate your support, and thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.